Good evening and welcome. Today is the 15th of May 2021. This is News First Primetime News on TV1. For the News First team, the voice of the people, I am Jama Ratnayaka. Here are your headlines for tonight. Over 42,000 affected by inclement weather. Heavy rains to reduce gradually. COVID-19 patients to be treated at home from the 17th. State Minister's statement on challenges in securing vaccines. CID probe incomplete. Cannot file charges against April attacks conspirators during tenure. A statement from the Attorney General. Farmers forced to throw away their harvest as it failed to sell in the market.
The 15th of May 2021. How can COVID-19 patients receive treatment at home? The progress of the vaccination drive. Is the public obeying the travel restrictions? Will the heavy shower cause power outages?
State Minister Sudarshini Fernando-Pulle inspected the vaccination drive that is being carried out in the country earlier today.
How will the treatment of COVID-19 patients be managed? The 117 hotline to coordinate the process of identifying COVID-19 infected individuals and directing them for treatment is currently in operation at the Disaster Management Centre. State Minister Sudarshini Fernando-Pulle inspected the process today. The hotline is functioning under the supervision of Major General Sudanta Ranasinghe. Officers attached to the police, the Air Force and the Navy will commence duties at the operations centre from Monday.
We hope to appoint medical officers to this operation centre and ensure the monitoring of asymptomatic individuals whose PCR tests return positive results at their homes. Those who display symptoms will be directed to hospitals. We predicted that the number of COVID-19 deaths would have spiked following the detection of the new virus strain. It has been 4 weeks since the new strain was detected. We are requesting donors for assistance. Our hospitals require oxygen supply and ventilators when increasing our ICU capacity. There is a need for medical supplies. Therefore, we request local donors to team up with the hospitals in their respective localities and to render their contribution in strengthening their service.
What is the progress in procuring the vaccines?
Although we have money to purchase vaccines, we are unable to make the imports. There is a massive demand for the jabs. Sri Lanka is one of the few leading nations in administering vaccines. We began our vaccination drive on the 29th of January. There is a shortage of about 600,000 AstraZeneca vaccines. We have requested the assistance of the private sector in seeking 10 million doses of the vaccine while paying attention to the shortage of 600,000 doses. The AstraZeneca vaccine is the most suitable one for people over the age of 60. Therefore, the government has focused its attention on the vaccination process in the country.
The Samagi Jana Balawege has condemned the attempts of the government to use the COVID-19 pandemic to fulfill their political needs and strengthen the economies of businessmen affiliated to the government. General Secretary of the SJB, Ranjit Mandabu Bandara, issuing a communique stressed that the government acted irresponsibly in handling all 3 waves of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the communique, during the first wave, the government called in nominations for the general election. During the second wave, the government was eager to pass the 20th Amendment to the Constitution despite the warnings issued by health authorities. During the third wave, against a backdrop where health authorities have warned of a possibility of foreign variants entering the country, the government allowed Ukrainian nationals to enter the country. The communique adds that at a time when the country is facing a grave crisis, the government has scheduled the debate on the Port City Economic Commission bill that could affect the sovereignty of the country on the 19th and 20th of this month. Pointing out that these actions display the adamant nature of the government, the Samagi Jana Balawege condemned these actions. Where were the vaccines administered today?
The Chinese Sinopharm vaccine was administered in the Western province today. The public queued up in large numbers since this morning to receive the jab. The Sinopharm vaccine was administered among residents in the Muttettuegura Gramanidari division in Talangama at the Subodhi Vidyalaya. Vaccines were also administered at the Mavittara Thisarana monastery in Piliyandala as well. Crowds gathered at the location to receive the jab since the early hours of today. 1,000 doses of the Chinese Sinopharm vaccine were administered at the Sri Subhuti temple in Vaskadua today. Residents of the 710A Kuda Vaskadua Gramanidari division received the jab.
Is the public abiding by travel restrictions?
Police officers on duty have reported that most of the people have abided by the quarantine regulations yesterday. This is a positive trend. 253 individuals have acted in violation of the quarantine regulations. Accordingly, these 253 suspects have been arrested in the last 24 hours. 9,282 individuals have been arrested so far.
Navy Commander Vice Admiral Nishanta Ulugethanna today inspected the progress of the proposed intermediate care centre in Yakala that is to be constructed by the Sri Lanka Navy. The facility will be equipped with 2,000 beds.
Around 100 officers are on duty here. We have completed work at the Gampaha, Wadupitiwala and Minuwangoda hospitals. We hope to complete this in 2 weeks.
Meanwhile, the Navy commander expressed his views on Indian refugees who enter Sri Lanka through the maritime boundaries.
Additional vessels have been dispatched to Mannar from the northwestern region. We have deployed additional Navy officers from the Eastern Command for maritime security purposes. The police is also assisting these efforts. The Air Force is providing us with information as well. We have tightened security by deploying additional vessels and officers. We have not observed a systematic mechanism adopted by India, but we have informed the Indian authorities about this. The Sri Lanka Navy, Indian Navy and the Coast Conservation Department will coordinate and implement a proper work plan.
Views were expressed in the political sphere on the government vaccination program today.
We asked for the vaccines to be imported in August last year, but the government was unable to provide the vaccines until February this year. Funds were received in the past as well. The US, China and Russia provided us funding. We witnessed how businessmen in the garment industry pooled funds to bring down vaccines, but that did not take place as expected. Many politicians claimed that what was important was to focus on uplifting the country's economy and not bringing down vaccines. Some such politicians are dual citizens. They have fled the country now, but they continue to try and manipulate political activities in the country. They will be able to act in such a manner, but the people of the country have no place to go. We asked for the vaccines to be imported by the state sector and for permission to be granted to the private sector as well. If that had taken place, then we would have been able to vaccinate scores of people. The government engaged in business with their allies in the private sector instead of protecting the people from the pandemic.
business කරන්න උත්සාහ කරා මිසක් රටේ මිනිස්සු මේ ව්‍යසනයේ මුදව ගන්න ආණ්ඩුව කටයුතු කරේ නැහැ.
Gym හදන්න, highway හදන්න කිසි ගැටලුවක් නැහැ.
Gyms and highways can be constructed. We don't dispute that, but the people must be protected from COVID-19 before that. Currently, around 2,500 or 3,000 infections are detected daily. The daily death toll has hit the 25-figure mark. The government is not trying to make the country free of COVID-19. They are making us live with COVID-19. If there are financial constraints in importing vaccines, a mechanism can be created to allow vaccines to be sold to the people at reasonable rates. The private sector can be allowed to import vaccines. But why is the government not doing anything about it? We don't know whether the government is not exploring that alternative until they can grant permission to one of their allies to be involved in the process.
මේක ගෙන්නන්න ඔවුන්ට අවසර ලබා දෙන්න.
AstraZeneca එන්නතට ලංකාවේ නියෝජිතවරයෙක් හිටියේ. ඔවුන්
There was a local agent for the AstraZeneca vaccine. They had made plans to import vaccines worth $50 million or 10 billion rupees. They said that it will be imported through the State Pharmaceutical Corporation. But what has happened now? Sri Lanka will have used up its entire stock of vaccines in the coming days if more vaccines are not imported. Around 600,000 people have been unable to obtain the second dose of the Covishield jab. It has been more than 16 weeks since they received the first dose.
දැන් සති 16 ඉක්මවින් යන තත්ත්වයක් තියෙනවා.
The opposition wants to enjoy the sight of infections and deaths increasing in the country. They want to witness the number of families in quarantine rising as well. Is that how they must conduct themselves now? It is no secret that this is a global pandemic. Countries powerful than ours faced massive downfalls. Even our neighbouring India has also faced a downfall.
අපිට වැඩි බලවත් රටවල් මේකෙන් හතර ගාතෙන් වැටුණා. අසල්වාසී ඉන්දියාව වැටිලා තියෙන්නේ.
These days we are experiencing floods. Roads have been flooded. The people cannot travel. The COVID-19 pandemic is also present in the country. The people cannot leave their homes to purchase goods because shops have been closed. Farmers don't have fertilizer. And now the latest issue is the flooding. Not a single person has distributed even bread in this area. All the people have been left helpless. The people have been affected since the government came into power 19 months ago. This was a government that was elected on lies. Now the government is focusing on passing a bill in parliament to give away the port city to China. Therefore, this is a separate province given to China. Did they mention this before they came into power? Sri Lanka is becoming a federal state.
දැන් ලංකාව ෆෙඩරල් රාජ්‍යයක් වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, the Frontline Socialist Party expressed its views on the COVID-19 fund during a media briefing today.
කොවිඩ් අරමුදලට මොකද උනේ කියලා ප්‍රශ්න කරා පහුගිය කාලේ ප්‍රශ්න කිරුණා දැන්
Questions were raised on what happened to the COVID-19 fund. Data regarding the usage of the fund has been released. According to the report released on the 10th of May 2021, the balance stands at 1.7 billion. Two reports have been published. One was on the 31st of October last year and the other was on the 1st of November. According to the report published on the 1st of November, 24 million had been spent on advocacy programs. But the latest report does not mention anything about advocacy programs. How did that go missing? How was that expenditure removed? This report says that 68 million had been spent on raising awareness. They have spent 194 million on 10 ambulances. This translates to 19.4 million for each ambulance. We inquired into the general cost of ambulances. A Toyota ambulance costs about $40,000. This is about 8 million. Even a Benz ambulance costs 13 million. Therefore, how did they spend 19.4 million on ambulances alone? Look at what they have done to this fund. They built this fund by cutting the salaries and daily wages of state sector employees. Therefore, we wish to inform the public about the usage of the fund. The expenditure of the fund must be revealed to the people. How much money was received by the fund? Who contributed to the fund? What type of ambulances did they purchase? We wish to call on the government to divulge these details to the public.
More news follows after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
After A-levels or O-levels, the really smart and successful people choose ACBT. Call us and we'll tell you why. 23 years in Sri Lanka, managed by one of the largest education companies in the world, Navatas Limited. Call ACBT on 077 3900.
Bellboy's got you covered. Download Bellboy today to get all your household appliance fixing and repairs done. Now available on Android and iOS.
After A-levels or O-levels, the really smart and successful people choose ACBT. Call us and we'll tell you why. 23 years in Sri Lanka, managed by one of the largest education companies in the world, Navatas Limited. Call ACBT on 077 3900.
Welcome back to the news. Sri Lanka's Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira has made a public announcement noting that he is not in a position to present charges or indictments against the conspirators and abettors of the 2019 April 21st attacks during his tenure in office, as the investigations carried out by the CID are incomplete. The announcement was made by State Counsel Nishara Jayaratna, the coordinating officer to the Attorney General, earlier today.
The Honourable Attorney General informs that he will not be able to file indictments before the High Court against all suspects involved in the April 21st attacks before the end of his tenure. This is because the CID is yet to conclude the investigations into all suspects connected to the 2019 April 21st attacks.
On to weather news. 4 people have died and 2 others sustained injuries owing to adverse weather prevailing across the island. According to the Disaster Management Centre, 546 houses have been partially damaged as well. 42,252 people of 11,074 families in 7 districts have been impacted due to the inclement weather. Based on the statistics of the Disaster Management Centre, people in the districts of Kegol, Colombo, Gampaha, Mathara, Kalutara, Kurunagala and Galle have been adversely affected by extreme weather.
An individual travelling along a decrepit portion of a road in Pattiyavilla, Kalaniya, died when he was caught in a flash flood. He was a 22-year-old resident of Mabima. The Athanagalu Oya and Uruwal Oya are still in minor flood levels owing to heavy rains. STC Sugishwara, the Director of Water and Disaster Management at the Department of Irrigation, warned the public living in low-lying areas in Gampaha, Diulapitiya, Athanagalla, Jayala, Katana and Mahara to remain vigilant at all times. The flood levels of the upper catchment areas of the Athanagalu Oya are receding. Water levels of the Athanagalu Oya in Gampaha could still increase. However, it will not turn into a massive flood. The minor flood level could increase, however, due to torrential rainfall experienced the day before yesterday. The Department of Irrigation added that minor flood levels of the Kalani, Gin, Nilvala, Kalu and Kuda rivers are reducing. 60 houses in Sivalivatta, Hangvella have been inundated following the overflow of the Kalani River. The affected families have now been relocated to the Mayadunna College in Hangvella. The water levels of the Kalani River at the Nagalagama water gauge stood at 6 meters. The Colombo-Kandy New Road was closed from Siambalape Junction in Biagama after the area was flooded. Multiple roads including the Baddegama Agalia Road and Baddegama Dodamgoda Road were inundated as a result of the Gin River overflowing. A portion of the Baddegama Old Town was also underwater. Our correspondent said the Baddegama town water gauge had risen to 5 meters. Floods which affected Gallandala and Tavalama areas in Hiniduma are now receding. The Bulatsinhala Molkava main road is currently inundated from the Paragoda area as a result of the Kukuleganga overflowing. Although water levels in the area are receding, movement along the road has been hampered. Floods in Malimbada, Kadduwa, Aturaliya, Akuressa and Malidua areas in Mathara rose as a result of the water overflowing from the Nilvala River. Our correspondent said that low-lying areas in the villages of Imbulgoda, Dialape and Edamudugoda have been inundated. The floodwaters there rose to about 10 feet. The Sri Lanka Army launched several relief operations in areas inundated due to adverse weather. Troops of the Sri Lanka Army's 6th Artillery Regiment carried out a number of relief and rescue operations for displaced people in the Gampaha area. The army had also launched multiple operations island-wide to provide relief to those affected by adverse weather. Floods which were reported from the western and southern provinces were observed from the air yesterday based on a directive by the commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force, Air Marshal Sudarshana Patirana. The Air Force says MA-60 and Vi-12 aircraft as well as Beechcraft, which are part of the Maritime Surveillance Force, are on standby should the need arise. The water level of the Rajanganya Reservoir had risen following the opening of the sluice gates of the Kalavava. 2 sluice gates of the Rajanganya Reservoir were opened by 2 feet to control the flow of water. It releases 1,272 cubic feet of water per second.
The Ministry of Power had said that electricity supply to 150,000 consumers has been suspended. Ministry spokesperson Shalakshana Jayawardena said that electricity has been interrupted after trees had toppled onto the electricity poles due to the inclement weather.
The Gampaha town was flooded today. Our correspondent reported that the town had been flooded within hours after the Attanagaluoya had begun to overflow. Flood levels had exceeded 4 inches in certain areas. The road opposite the Gampaha bus halt and the Gampaha hospital was also flooded. Meanwhile, the Ganegoda area in Thirivanavatta had been flooded due to the construction of the Mirigama-Kadavitha section of the Central Expressway. The Mirigama-Kadavitha section of the Central Expressway was planned to be constructed on pillars across fields from Ganegoda. The pillars were to be constructed from Gal Amuna in Kal Elia to Ganegoda. However, locals point out that the areas that they reside in have been flooded as construction work is being carried out by reclaiming land.
The consent of field owners had been obtained to construct the expressway on pillars. However, they are not acting according to the plan and are constructing a dam. They must build a 7-foot culvert in the structure. The rest of the construction was to be completed on pillars. The people are requesting for bigger culverts to be constructed.
This has never happened. The roads were flooded up to our knees. We have informed the relevant entities that this has happened due to the Central Expressway. They said that the construction would be carried out on pillars, but that did not happen. Therefore, the water levels are not receding. This is our hometown. We never experienced flooding. The road becomes flooded even after a minor shower due to the expressway. We are unable to cook meals because our kitchen is flooded.
Promises to construct roads feature heavily, especially during election season. However, the standard and quality of those roads were put to the test following the adverse weather experienced across the island over the past few days.
This is the only road that links Pitigala to Mapalagama. Asphalt was laid on this 17-kilometer long road just recently. Just one day of heavy rains and the asphalt has come off.
Without removing the old layer of asphalt, they laid the new asphalt on top of that and just pressed it. No drains were constructed and the water cannot recede. The entire road was washed away. The asphalt was removed by the water currents right before our eyes. The old road appeared and the new layer of asphalt got washed away. This is the money of the people of our country.
This is the only road that connects Liyanagedara Junction in Beragama Agalavatta in Kalutara to Udavalave. Asphalt was laid on this road less than a month ago. Unfortunately, the road failed to withstand the rains that were experienced in the area yesterday.
This is the asphalt that was laid. This can be crushed by my bare hands. Is this even asphalt? It's been almost a month since this was laid. This is the quality of asphalt. The asphalt is like jaggery. They spent 20 million rupees to construct this road that is not even 1 inch thick just before the wave of COVID-19 pandemic hit the country. The road was constructed to appease the people when there were talks of a provincial council election. Even when the people opposed the construction of this road, they went ahead with it. A simple rain washed away the entire road. This is a crime.
The residents of these villages have one question for the authorities. Isn't it the hard-earned money of taxpayers that is being blatantly wasted, with these roads being washed away by rain?
The Ministry of Trade has announced that the Manning Market in Peta will be open for only wholesale traders tomorrow. Meanwhile, Newsfirst cameras captured harvests that are going to waste in several parts of our country.
A dream of a farmer is to sell his hard-earned harvest and earn a living for his family. But the harvest of farmers reaped after months of hard work were dumped into garbage trucks today. According to farmers, they had brought their harvest to the Katukastota Manikkumbura market complex to be sold under the current work plan rolled out by authorities.
There are goods, but they cannot be sold. We have no solution. Vegetables such as leeks, beans and capsicum will go to waste. We cannot do anything about it. That is the situation.
Fruits cultivated by farmers have also gone to waste.
Hello.
They ask us to bring vegetables and instruct some economic centers to be kept open. After this is done, they ask the centers to be closed down when traders violate the rules. Then to whom can we sell our produce?
This is the Tambutegama dedicated economic center in Anuradhapura. Several farmers had brought their produce to this economic center yesterday. However, their harvest was rotten by this morning. Farmers in Talava in Tambutegama cultivate bananas day and night.
It's time to reap our banana harvest. Traders don't visit the centers to purchase our produce. The traders who purchased our goods in Colombo Fort don't purchase them now. Politicians contact us and say that vegetables and fruits are brought to the economic center. However, in reality, these stocks are piled up and then thrown away. This is causing massive damage. Parliamentarians and ministers say that farmers are being provided relief and other concessions. Those are media theatrics. They never visit us. Fertilizer was not available to be purchased. We can't sell our produce as well. What sort of relief is this? No one looks into the well-being of farmers.
Meanwhile, the opposition leader today spoke of the plight of farmers and consumers in this country.
The entire country has collapsed. Farmers who make ends meet by selling their produce are not able to do that today. Farmers in the country are helpless. On the other hand, the prices of vegetables, fruits and other essential goods have risen drastically. Doesn't this educated government know how to manage this situation? Doesn't the educated Minister of Trade have the capacity and talent to do this? Is this government only capable of lying to the general public? Is that the only skill of these ministers? Do you not understand the sorrow of these farmers? Is the government not ready to provide relief to these farmers?
The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka has observed that children's rights are violated under the current procedure to enroll students into schools.
The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka has written to the Education Ministry to amend the regulations on enrolling students in school. The letter insists that documents proving the occupancy of a home must be taken into account instead of house deeds when enrolling children. It observed that the current system, in which additional points are offered for producing a land deed certifying ownership, violates constitutional rights. The Human Rights Commission also called on the Education Ministry to abolish the system of enrolling students based on religion. It added that quotas must not be allocated concerning religions while enrolling students in schools, as it is a matter of individual freedom. Meanwhile, the human rights body has also recommended establishing a unit to accept complaints on the failure to enroll students in schools. The letter observed that these complaints must be resolved within a period of 3 months.
In some science and tech news, Chinese state media has reported that China successfully landed its rover on Mars, becoming the second country in history to have a rover on the red planet. And that's all the news we have for you today on Primetime News. However, we leave you tonight with the remarks expressed by former provincial councillor Nalin Hevage on environmental destruction taking place in the country. For the Newsfirst team, the voice of the people, I'm Jamal Ratnayaka, along with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Taraka Gabriel. Take care, stay safe, and good night.
The epilogue. We are witnessing massive floods in several areas within a single day of rainfall as a result of the environmental destruction taking place in the country. All highways transform into pools when this happens. Why is this happening? It is because of the destruction caused to the environment. When the government came into power, they permitted rock quarries, sand mining, and the reclamation of land. They destroyed rivers and engaged in deforestation. Today we are facing the repercussions of the damages that were inflicted upon the environment and forests. But the rulers won't face the brunt of it. The president's or the Prime Minister's residence won't be inundated by floods. Some leaders have fled to the US. Therefore, they will not face this impact. But the innocent people here are forced to pay the price for the mistakes committed by their rulers. Landslides and floods have occurred in several areas. The people have been struck by a double whammy.
ප්‍රදේශ ගණනාවක් යට වෙනවා අද ජනතාව කබලෙන් ලිපට වැටලා තියෙන්නේ